Hey there, it's William Westhopper from the real DC Car Guy, and I am expanding beyond car and truck reviews in the Washington DC area, beyond being a VIP tour guide at the Washington DC Auto Show, but more importantly now, I'm showing off some of the things that I'm interested in. Specifically, one of the things I'm interested in is what's affecting the residents of the District of Columbia. So I've asked Senator Michael Brown here. Michael Brown, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm always interested in talking about what's affecting the District of Columbia.
Well, first of all, the last time we met was right after you had put the sign up. And, you know, it's still here, what, 5 years later, 4 years later?
Been here a while, and not one neighbor has complained about it, which surprised me. I thought,
not even in Maryland?
No.
Good.
Not even in Maryland.
Well, that's a good thing, because this was a big thing back in the day when the Republicans were in office here, and we were really concerned about what was going on with the district.
Yeah, we're still concerned. There's two pieces of legislation in Congress right now to get rid of home rule. I mean, to completely abolish the office of the mayor and the city council. So we're still concerned about it. And we're in a fight, but we know that for the immediate future, what we need to do is make sure that Kamala Harris gets into the White House.
Well, and good that you bring that up, because you've just returned from a very raucous Democratic National Convention 2024, a lot more energy than we saw at the Republican convention. Actually, I don't think I've seen that much energy since Obama. You were there. What was it like?
Well, this was my 13th consecutive Democratic convention. I've been at every one for the last 45 years. And there was so much energy in the room, and that's what President Biden did with that amazing sacrifice. He had it locked up. He had 1,000 delegates more than he needed. The only way to change the outcome was for him to step down, which he did, and he injected so much energy in the room. They talked about hope. Mrs. Obama told us that hope is on the rise, and it is on the rise, and that was a feeling you got every moment you were in that hall, that people were hopeful, that they were willing to work hard, and they wanted to see all this happen.
Well, and one of the things that I really noticed, actually two things that I noticed. One was young people. We had a lot of young people engaged in it. But the thing that really touched me about this year's Democratic National Convention was diversity. It felt like I was here in Washington, D.C. There was everybody that was there, and they were together, and they were working together, whether they be black, white, gay, straight, Latino, Hispanic, Asian, everybody was there. How did that make you feel when you kind of, for me as a watcher, it made me feel good that those are my people there?
Well, and I was there with my daughter. I got to bring my daughter who lives in Chicago, so it made me feel great. I have an openly gay daughter, my younger daughter. I felt like she was represented. I felt like my daughter Tricia, who's a working 31-year-old working woman, was represented. I felt like old people like me were represented, just like you said. And we were all sitting right next to each other, and we were all pulling in the same direction.
The amount of young people that I saw there, do you think we're going to see a resurgence of young people getting engaged in politics again? I think the last ANC contests here in DC, we saw a lot of younger people step up. So is that something that you're seeing, from the halls?
Absolutely, and it takes me back, because that's where I started. I was an 18-year-old, who was out on the mall protesting the Vietnam War, and we were engaged back then. Something happened where we all drifted, we all got into the middle class, we all drifted away from that. But yes, we're seeing a resurgence of that, an understanding that young people have, that they've got to be part of the solution.
And they are stepping up, which is one of the things that a lot of people have been saying, that millennials are not stepping up. They are not, they're just letting it happen. But this young crowd, whether they be high schoolers or college-age students, they're all stepping up, which is really amazing to see across the board.
Yes, because they realize our democracy is at stake here. And this is such a fundamental principle for all of us You know, young people are busy being young, and it makes sense.
As we were when we were young.
Right, exactly, right. They now realize that if they're not part of the solution, they're part of the...
So Washington, D.C. was founded in the late 18th century, and a lot has changed over those times. What issues do you see facing D.C. over the next 4 years?
Well, our biggest thing really is the fact that the Republican Party has attacked the District of Columbia, and we need to defend the district. So the way to do that is to keep Democrats in the White House. But beyond that, we have the same issues that everybody else has. The economy is an issue. You know, people don't care how, in general, how the stock market's doing. They care about the price of bread and the price of gas. So these are important issues, not only inflation, but the economy in terms of jobs for people. I have young people in my life. I have 3 children, 2 of whom are underemployed. So we need more opportunities for people. We also have other challenges ahead of us, of course, becoming equal citizens of our democracy. It's crazy that we don't have the same rights everybody else has. I've spoken in Portugal, Scotland, India, all on this issue. Nobody can believe that the citadel of democracy, the home of democracy, there's very little democracy.
Well, and you mentioned that just the presidential election, but the importance also is in the House and Senate across the country.
Yeah.
You know, those lower elections, those step down election folks, you know, those are the people that are making a lot of decisions. I'm sure you see that, you know, in your role too, is, you know, while you don't have a voice in Congress, a vote in Congress, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so you don't, but you see people who do have a voice and who are saying not great things about the District of Columbia and are making decisions about the District of Columbia.
Well, you know, unfortunately for us in Congress, it's a partisan battle. And that's what it's always been for statehood, is control of Congress. So, you know, the clearest example is the Missouri plan, right? A slave state and a non-slave state. Republican states, the Dakotas, 4 Republican senators instead of 2. It's always been about control of Congress. So for us, it's 2 more Democrats in the United States Senate. And we have almost every Democrat in the House has voted for statehood. We passed the bill twice. But we're in the Senate where we have to have either 60 votes or we have to suspend the rule, get rid of the filibuster for in order to accomplish our goal of passing legislation. The White House is important to us because of what Donald Trump has said he's going to do if he takes over. But the truth of the matter is it's Congress that we have to really worry about, and they're the people that make the decisions for us. This is interesting. Last month, there was legislation, a rider, which is usually how they affect legislation in the District of Columbia. They put a rider on another bill, on an appropriations bill that said that our office, my office of United States Senator, would be permanently abolished, and any office that dealt with statehood would be permanently abolished, and no private or federal or local funds could be used to promote statehood. It failed because the bill it was attached to failed.
But that's not something that we haven't heard, that we've heard that before. I mean, this is an ongoing thing that they are trying to kick you and Eleanor Holmes Norton sort of out of the decision-making process, and thus all of 785,000 residents of this DC?
A little over 700,000.
Yeah,
you know what? I wear that as a badge of courage. I think that they're interested in getting rid of my office because we're having an impact and they feel it.
Well,
you know, so they want to hold the District of Columbia up, which is solidly Democratic, right? We've never voted for a Republican for president. We have no elected officials inside the District of Columbia that are Republican.
Well, we used to, though.
We used to. We had Carol Schwartz, who changed parties.
And then we had who was
David Catania, who also changed parties.
Yes.
Because you can't win without being a Democrat.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
Whoever wins the Democratic primary, the Washington Post starts interviewing them right away on what are you going to do when you get elected.
Right.
You can't win the Democratic primary and lose. So we're the most democratic jurisdiction in America. As such, the Republicans want to hold us up to ridicule, and they have the power to do it if they control the, if they have control of Congress.
People question the, the leadership of the District of Columbia.
Well, I think they should question it.
Changing the subject a little bit, let's talk about the business climate in Washington, D.C. right now. Pandemic really kicked our butts with a lot of people, who were in office spaces leaving, so the little mom and pops, the coffee stores, the gift stores and all are really having a hard time, not to mention even, the department stores and other stores downtown, the restaurants. What are we going to do to make DC once again a thriving business center of the Mid-Atlantic region?
Well, you know what, we have to invest in small business more in the District of Columbia because we get so much money. We have a $13 billion budget in this small, less than 10 mile square jurisdiction, and a lot of it comes from the tax that we put on food and beverage and other entertainment. We're not allowed to spend without Congress approval, but we make a lot of money on the small businesses that because of our 8% tax on food and beverage. And if we're willing to put $500 million, $500 million into keeping the hockey and basketball team in town, we ought to be interested in putting $500 million into small business.
Well, and each of those small businesses is possibly a resident of DC or a resident of neighbor things that are putting their kids to school here, that are spending money here. So by investing in a small business, the money is staying in DC.
That's exactly right. And you know what? I think just locally in my neighborhood, we've lost our favorite Thai restaurant, we've lost our favorite, over and over again, we've lost these small businesses that we've dealt with for years. And it's horrible to see them go. Yes, there's very often a family behind each one and multiple employees. So, it's a win-win for us when they do well.
Let's talk about petty crime in the District of Columbia. What can DC do about petty crime, about hate crime, about other crimes that affect our residents?
Well, I don't know what you can do about hate crime except to educate people.
Okay.
I mean, hate, my daughter says to me all the time, because I get attacked as a politician, she says, haters gotta hate, Dad. So, it's hard to change haters. But crime, certainly, we've gone overboard, in my opinion, in the wrong direction on crime. To put a crime bill like we did before Congress, which cost us 44 Democrats, first time in history, plus the President of the United States, which reduced the mandatory sentencing for carjacking and murder when murders and carjackings are up in the District of Columbia, was overreaching. We shouldn't have done it. Now, the criminal code was more than 100 years old. Should it have been modified? Yes, but there's a time and place for everything, right?
Absolutely.
And it was the wrong time. So we need to be more conscious of things like that. We're now talking about ranked choice voting. That's on the ballot. Do you know what ranked choice voting is? Look, 80,000 people don't vote for the second seat in the city council because they don't understand how you can vote for two people for the same office. That at-large councilman, the first person and second person win. So you can't get 80,000 people, which is about 40% of the electorate, to vote for one office. You're going to have them vote 5 times for each office. We're overreaching too much, I think, and this has led to an environment where people think they can get away with everything. Unfortunately, look at our councilman in Ward 8. He's now been accused of bribery. He deserves the presumption of innocence until he's proven guilty. But this has happened time and time again in the District of Columbia. It's time for us to pay attention. The people that have money in this town that live in my neighborhood and your neighborhood can tell you more about Hillary Clinton than they can tell you about Muriel Bowser. We focus on national politics. We need to focus a little more on what's going on locally.
Affordable housing. Let's add affordable housing to this mix. That's a really big thing, certainly along Connecticut Avenue. You just mentioned Muriel Bowser. She's talking about more affordable housing. Yeah.
You know what? You've got a huge vacancy rate in commercial property, and you got people that need housing. Is it just me, or doesn't that sound like something, a solution just waiting to happen? We need to convert that into affordable housing, more of it. We need to stop the giveaways to big developers. That's been a problem in the District of Columbia for years. I'd say it's still a problem, but it's a problem that these people have inherited. It's been that way for a long time. We need to change that.
Now, one of the things that we keep hearing from the Republicans are family values, and that's something that Washington D.C. really strongly has, family values. That kind of bringing kids in and foster families. My neighbors, an LGBTQ couple, have adopted a little girl. I mean, it's just
God bless them.
Yeah, absolutely. But Washington D.C. is truly a family town, and that's an important part of what the Republicans are saying. But they don't think that Democrats are family oriented, and I think we really saw that at the DNC convention too.
Yeah. With those little girls teaching us how to say Kamala. I mean, everybody, I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah.
Her two grandnieces, comma, la 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 la. The place melted.
Well,
I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in the whole house.
Then Coach Waltz's kids, and then Doug Emhoff's kids. I mean,
right.
All
and
of
the
these
little girl, the shot from the New York Times of the little girl with the pigtails, looking like Ruby Bridges, staring at her great aunt, who may become the first black woman to win the presidency. Yes, we care about family. They talk about family. I mean, come on. You saw what happened at Arlington Cemetery yesterday. Why did that happen? Because these people don't respect veterans. I can't believe that the man had the audacity to stand on that sacred ground after what he said in that cemetery in France. These people aren't losers. They aren't suckers. They're people who have paid for our democracy with their lives. And to use that as a backdrop for a promo was despicable. Some congressman from New York today said, hey man, it's Arlington Cemetery, it's not Disneyland. And that's the way we should treat it. And we have family values. Of course, I care about my kids. I have 3 kids. They're the most important part of my life. And of a gay couple that brought in a foster child, God bless them. I have a friend up the street who adopted 5 children, 5 girls from a Russian orphanage that was 20 years old and had never had an adoption. They were just a warehouse for kids.
One of my other neighbors adopted 2 Russian boys. Yeah. Who my late husband and myself used to sort of be the father figure for. So it's an important part of things. Yeah,
because you got to care about people to really have family values.
Absolutely. Now tell me, has this sign made a difference?
I don't know. I had to work with what I had. They don't give us very much money. For the first 9 years I had this office, I paid for everything. Right. So if I wanted to take you to lunch, I had to pay for it. I had no staff. Everybody was a volunteer. Now at least I have 1 staff person. But I had this. This is the first house that you pass going into the District of Columbia. So I said, I can put up a welcome sign, right? But let's make it a real welcome sign. Let's let people know if you live here, you lose your rights. And so it's what I had to work with. I have a podcast. I told you it's been nominated. You voted for it for a People's Choice Award.
What is the name of your podcast, and where can we find it?
It's called Shadow Politics. It can be found on the BBS radio platform. It plays twice a week in DC on WEAC Radio. Okay. It can be found on Apple Play and a lot of other, wherever you get your podcasts. And I started it because I had to pay for it, and it was $50 a week. And I said, you know what? I can't afford to promo a regular radio show, but I can $200 a month I can afford, and
But
so I did that.
on podcasting, you were ahead of the storm. I mean, everybody's podcasting now. You've been doing this for a number of years.
11 years.
11
yeah.
years, yeah. So
And the reason I did it is because I looked in the paper and I saw that DC Vote had done a survey that showed that 80% of Americans believe that we should have the same rights as they did, but 80% of America believe we already did.
Right.
And like 78% of Republicans and 80% of Democrats. So I said the problem is that people don't know about this, and how can we get people to know about it?
That's the sign.
The sign,
That's the sign.
the podcast. When they took statehood out of the Democratic platform, I knew a couple of guys in North Carolina when I ran my own business who I'd done business with, and I got them to sell me 2 billboards for $10,000 a week right outside the convention center that said support DC statehood.
Good.
So, and from that day forth, statehood was back in the platform.
Well, and statehood is an important part for us, and hopefully that we'll see that. So that brings me to my last question for you. So, Senator Brown, what's the future for you?
Well, the future for me is bright. I have other things I want to do. I'm 71 years old. Like Joe Biden, I've realized that there's some heavy lifting here for a younger person, and so I'm stepping down. It looks like my wife and I are going to move to Kent Island.
So you'll be close by.
Yeah, we'll be close by so that we can still get back and forth to our family. We have family and friends here. My son runs an Ace Hardware store, and we have family.
Yay for Ace Hardware. Well, I love Ace Hardware.
Well, he runs the one on Wisconsin Avenue. Go see him.
Which one?
Glover.
Glover. Okay, we'll make sure. All right.
Great guy.
Shout out for Glover Park Ace Hardware.
Yes, Glover Park. Go see Nick.
Yeah.
Buy something from him.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe he'll make enough money he can buy his old man a really nice car.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Well, Senator Brown, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you
for
You're
coming
one
out
of the
and
most
speaking to me.
fun and interesting interviews I do.
Oh, good. Well, I appreciate that, and I hope that we get to see you down at the Washington Auto Show. If you need anything down there,
I'd love to check out new cars.
Come down and hang out with us.
I have the new car Jones. You know, I unfortunately, because of the pandemic, have a nice car that's only got 30,000.
Well, but you've got
it's only got 30,000 miles on it, so it's hard to justify getting a new car.
But you also got
a new electric Charger.
Oh
my God!
Very much
or the Volkswagen Bus.
The ID Buzz. We can go back to being the back to the 60s and reliving, but it's a whole different vehicle. Again, thank you so much for speaking with me today, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Continued success.
For sure.